Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. As I promised that I'll create a video for you people to help you understand the Tale of Two Cities, book 2, chapter 1 to 6. This is the first part of the video so that I can have a feedback from your side, whether my voice is audible, whether you want me to continue with this series or not. Because a lot of students they wanted me to repeat the things again and again, and I think this is a great way to go about it. So we are going to do the review of A Tale of Two Cities again, book 2, chapter 1 to 6. Let's begin. So we know that the first chapter, chapter 1, is called 5 Years Later. In this chapter, we explore the setting a bit more, right? We tend to look at how Telson Bank was operating and how Jerry Cruncher is part of the story itself. Okay. Previously, Telson Bank and Jerry Cruncher were introduced to us, but they were not discussed in detail. Their character was, the Jerry Cruncher specifically. His character was a bit mysterious, and we know him as a messenger from Telson Bank. We know that he's a grave robber, but exactly who is Jerry Cruncher? That's what we explore in this chapter. We also see Telson Bank in a holistic view, where we see how they operate and what are the reasons, what are what is actually their business, right? So let's take a look at the first two key events of this chapter. Like I said, Telson Bank is one of the key events of this chapter. We have a description of how Telson Bank works, and you can see here it's written how it is a very dark and ugly place and very uncomfortable one at that, and how it's so controversial, because we see from the first chapter that it's working in France and it's also present in England. And we see that there is this, you know, the air of gloominess that's there. So we are unable to understand exactly what it does. It has the element of secrecy in itself, but then as we move forward we come to know that it's Delson Bank is involved in a lot of executions, and if it's clearly stated in the first chapter of this book too that if all the heads were gathered, the people that have been killed by Delson Bank, then it would literally eliminate the light from the ground floor, which means that they have been involved in a lot of executions. And then we have the second pointer, which is very important as well as, and I believe that it's one of the key mentioning about the Telson Bank, that they are involved in controversial activities. They have been brainwashing young men until they have the full Telson flavor, meaning that they want those people who they bring into their bank to fully devote themselves to Telson Bank. They shouldn't have their own opinion. They shouldn't be denying what Telson Bank want them to do. And then we have Jerry Cruncher on the other side, which, by the way, is equally important in the chapter. We get to know that he has a 12-year-old son and that he is involved with Telson Bank. But mind this, that Jerry Cruncher is not allowed inside the premises of Telson Bank. He only stands outside Telson Bank and he waits for the messages to take them to whatever, whoever is the recipient. And then we see that he is insecure of his doings. We see that while he was sleeping, his wife was praying, and suddenly he threw a boot at her, and he said to her that you should stop praying. You are the curse. You're causing my business to go down, and you don't want me to be successful, and these are your prayers. I'm sorry, these are your prayers that have led to all this mess, and that I have not been able to do my business really well. It's all your fault. And we see that as a father figure, I think Jerry Cruncher is quite enthusiastic about his upbringing of his son. He wants his son to do better in his life, and he wants to, of course, do financially better for the sake of his son. Let's take a look at two pictures that I've attached here. This is Telson Bank. It's an illustration by Stanford Education, and they have created it pretty well. That this is a dark, shady building, and I think this is Jerry Cruncher himself. He's standing outside. He's not going inside the building. And then we have Jerry Cruncher and his wife in the next picture. So it's just to show you exactly, to help you imagine how things work. Anyway, let's move to chapter 2. This chapter is called A Sight. Now we see that this is the beginning of a whole new story. Um, You all know that there are so many characters involved in A Tale of Two Cities, and I think this is where we get to meet the new characters as well as to explore what the book is about. Since we have talked about it previously, how it relates to French Revolution, so I think this is where it all starts. Let's begin. So this is a picture of Bedlam. Basically, this was Bethlehem, but they have written it Bethlehem in the book. So let's pronounce it the way it is, Bethlehem, right? And it's a mental hospital. Why is it important? We're going to discuss it really soon. I just want you to have a, you know, to have a, illustration in your mind exactly how this place looks. And then this is Old Bailey Court. What we are seeing in this chapter is completely different from what we have read so far. We have read about how France and the French people are suffering, and how French people are brutally being treated by the elite men. Here, the story is a bit different. We see that it is in fact all the Englishmen who are somewhat corrupt in their doing. I mean, they enjoy the pain of others, right? And that's a very sad thing to hear itself. We through the author see that Old Bailey and Bedlam were two places that people really loved and enjoyed. Their stay over there, their the happenings over there. They were really into it. They wanted to see the pain of others, and they paid money for this particular entertainment. And we have discussed it in the classroom thoroughly as well, how the Colosseum times and the Greek culture used to iterate the same sort of incidents, right? Where the gladiators had to fight, and they had to fight until one of them died, and so it went on until the other person died as well, meaning there was no escape out from these particular colosseums. So this is, I think, very similar to what's happening here. People at Old Bailey courtroom, those who are there as audience, what they want is simply the death of the man who has been brought to the court. They see it no other way. We also see a description of Old Bailey Court in this chapter, and it has been discussed that this Old Bailey Court, it's a particular place with a particular, way of doing things. The practices are very unusual, very different to what we usually see in our courts, and these people, they also are involved. It's a critique actually. They are involved in the black money business as well, where they are taking money from others for framing different people on their name. I mean, the rich had the liberty to pay money to the court, and they would simply get released from that court, and the other person would be punished, which, by the way, was of course wrong. So I think that he's also showing us the worst time of England as well, where people did, they did not have much say in what's happening to them in the courts, right? So I guess that's it for chapter two. I hope that you understood what I said so far.